Good morning, everybody. We're live from the birdhouse. We are rolling through the month of December, and today we're giving you an update on the kind of birds people are seeing throughout the area and what is common at people's feeders right now. As always, if you have any sightings, you can put those in the comments if you have any kinds of questions. And we always like to know what kinds of things you're seeing anyway. So put those in the comments also. We'll share some of your photos here as well. And I should also mention, if you are still looking for some last minute gifts for um, family or for people near or far, we do have things for sale on our website, and that is thebirdhouseny.com. Not only can you order merchandise, we also have gift certificates on there too. So you can order gift certificates and they'll be sent out right to the person you want them to go to. So that's always great. If you're not totally sure what to get somebody, we have that option as well. As we're getting down to the last few days before Christmas here, we are also going to be open on Christmas Eve, so I should mention that as well, with some extended hours. Extended hours earlier in the morning. We're going to open up at 9 in the morning instead of our usual 10. So we'll be open from 9 till 3 on Christmas Eve, so you can get a head start on any real last minute shopping that you might have this Saturday. So the first update I'll give you guys is last weekend, or last Tuesday actually, we talked with Matt Young of the Finch Research Network, talking about different eruptive species, including the grosbeaks, the evening grosbeaks, pine grosbeaks. And throughout the season, there have been some evening grosbeaks seen around, but not so much over the past couple of weeks. They've been pretty sparse. So as far as evening grosbeaks go, there's really not too much to report recently. Now that could change at any time, and if you have seen any, I'd love to know where you are and how many you saw, and if they were at your feeders or not, because we have gotten some reports throughout the season sprinkled around from people who've been, but haven't necessarily put that data into something like eBird where we could easily access it to see. So if you have had any evening grosbeak activity, we'd love to know that. However, the pine grosbeaks are still being seen around here and there in that same area out in Webster, out by Webster Park, by the playground, by the camps and by the playground area out here in Webster. So there's still been some smattering reports here and there about pine grosbeak around. So your chances of seeing them might be better right now than the evening grosbeak. So and as far as feeders go, if you're trying to attract them to your backyards, anything with wide open space, so hopper feeder like this, a tray feeder is great. So anything with a lot of perching room is fantastic for these larger birds. And they love sunflower seed, safflower seed. Can't go wrong with sunflower hearts, the inside of the sunflower. So that's going to be the ideal food for them. Just like the grosbeaks have been filtering in here and there, and are an eruptive bird, Bohemian waxwings are being seen as well. We've been hearing most of the reports of them have been in mixed flocks with cedar waxwings. So if you do happen upon a group of cedar waxwings, it can't hurt to take a moment and look to see if there's anything that's larger than the cedar waxwings, that's more gray in color, and that has these white patches on its feathers, because that would indicate you have yourself a Bohemian waxwing. And this is what the cedar waxwing looks like, just to show you the difference between the two. Common redpoll, another bird, eruptive. Some sightings here and there. So far, nothing major. Same with pine siskin. Not too much to report about there. People are getting lots of tufted titmice at their feeders. Seems to be a really good season for the tufted titmouse. More sightings at feeders than most people usually report, at least for us. And juncos are back in big numbers. I've been getting flocks of them in my backyard, which is always fun. You can especially look for them on the ground. They tend to be ground feeders, and they'll form some small flocks. They're gray in color with that little pink bill. And when they fly, they've got white stripes on their tail feathers that really show. So if you see a flash of white somewhere in your backyard around the ground, it's probably going to be dark-eyed juncos. And tree sparrows are another bird that you can find sometimes underneath your feeders. They're more of a winter bird here. So now would be the time to go see those tree sparrows. Some other birds people are reporting at their feeders, and some pretty decent numbers, are red-breasted nuthatch, and they are another bird that's more common here in the winter months. So keep an eye out for them. We have two different species. We've got the red-breasted nuthatch and the more common white-breasted nuthatch. So both of these will come to feeders, and with the red-breasted nuthatch usually not being as common as the white-breasted nuthatch, but in the winter months, you'll tend to see them more, and people are getting a good number of them coming to their feeders as well. So, and then northern flicker. I've been seeing a ton of northern flicker in my feeders, way more than I've ever seen before, which is pretty neat. And I've had some other customers say the same thing, that they've seen lots of flickers. Seems like flickers come to feeders more so in the winter, while they're here all year round. In the spring and in the summer, they're, like their name suggests, flicking around the leaf litter and the grass, looking for some food to eat. So when it's kind of frozen and it's hard for them to flick things around, doesn't make sense. It does make sense that they would come to feeders more so than usual. So northern flicker, I've been seeing them every day in my backyard, which is really, really cool. And here our northern flickers are what are called yellow shafted flickers. And so when they fly, they have this yellow wash that's underneath their feathers. So really, really cool coloration there for the northern flicker. And then there's house finches and purple finches. So some people have been reporting purple finches here and there. So I thought I'd show you the differences between the two, because they can look kind of similar. These are house finches, and we have both house finches and purple finches here year round. But house finches are going to be the more common of the two species. House finches, the male on the left here, is got a red wash on him, and also is very striped. If you look at the striping on these birds, that's going to really be an indicator that you've got house finches. The female doesn't have the red wash on her, but she's got some stripes on her. A drab coloration, brown and white with brown stripes. So these are house finches. You can find them coming to your sunflower feeder or your Niger feeder. But then you might also see what are called purple finches. And purple finches, it can sometimes be hard to tell them apart. But if you look at the male purple finch, they're not going to have those stripes on them like the male house finch will. The female is a different story, but the male purple finch is not going to have those brown stripes. So, for example, if you look at the male house finch here on the left, he's got quite a bit of stripes there on his breast, but the purple finch does not. And then another thing about purple finches is that their bills are quite a bit larger than the house finch. It's kind of hard to tell in this photo here, but they do have a very, very robust beak. And then the female purple finch will also have a really bold, much more bold patterning on her face than the female house finch. So here's the female house finch. Not a lot happening on her face as far as patterns go, but if you look in the background here of the female purple finch, you can see that there is more striping on her face. So the purple finch, like their name suggests, they tend to be more of a raspberry color, and the house finch is more of a reddish color. But people are reporting purple finches around town, and they are more common in the wintertime. So keep an eye out for them at your feeder. They tend to come more to sunflower seed feeders than, say, the Niger feeders. So that can be another way to tell what kind of bird you have there. As far as your photos, and we've gotten some photos sent in here to us. These are really neat. Another bird that's here in the winter months, not so much in the spring and summer, are short-eared owls. And here is a series of photos of short-eared owls sent in by Mark J, who says, saw 4 short-eared owls. Fascinating to watch them interact and hunt. First time seeing them. And short-eared owls like wide open fields. So if you have a place where you walk where you see a lot of bluebirds, for example, that could be a good place to find short-eared owls. If you ever see northern harrier during the day flying around, which is a bird of prey, towards the evening, couldn't hurt to go out there and see that you might have some short-eared owls. And here are A couple interacting here, could be fighting over some kind of a meal. Here's one perched right there, overseeing its territory there. And then this one looks like it's getting something, or it's just about lifting off the ground. So really cool photos there. And this is kind of their typical posture. They'll fly low over fields as they're hunting. Sometimes they'll make calls that sound like barking, kind of almost like a dog bark. And so it can be pretty neat to see. And these are short-eared owls. So they're here in the winter months. So they'll be here through, February, March or so. April, sometimes you can still see them in April here too. So really neat photos here sent in by Mark. And then also male and female Northern Harriers. So Northern Harriers will be in the same kind of habitat, but different times usually, although there is some overlap. Sometimes as the Northern Harriers are settling down for the evening, the short-eared owls are just starting to come out. But open fields are a great place to find Northern Harrier during the day. And this is a picture of a female Northern Harrier here. And then there's the male. The male is quite gray in color, and the female is brown. So you can tell the difference between male and female there. So this was another picture that was sent in by Mark, and this was in the Geneva area. And Northern mockingbirds, while they're not super common right now, there are some that'll be seen all winter long here. And this was a photo sent in by Mark around the Erie Canal. He says Northern mockingbird in the crabapple tree. So there it is, kind of giving the side eye there. And then robins, although robins are associated as a sign of spring, we'll have them here all winter as well. Not all of them stay all winter. Some of them, if we get some really harsh weather, might decide it's time to go. But right now, there are still some around, especially eating berries. And this is another photo around the Erie Canal. And Mark says American robins grab and go. So it's getting some berries and off on its way. If you're out by water, there's a whole bunch of different birds you can see out there. There's waterfowl, gulls in the wintertime. There's lots of different gulls you can see. Not my strongest suit, but Mark sent in some photos here. Here's an Iceland gull by Irondequoit Bay. And then also a Bonaparte's gull. So some different gull species. We're used to seeing the ring-billed gull and the herring gull. We'll have great black-backed gulls around, but here's some other species too, the Iceland and the Bonaparte's gull. Pretty cool photos there. And there's lots of different fun waterfowl like this red-breasted merganser. This is another photo sent in by Mark who says red-breasted merganser talking. You can see its bill is wide open, so that's a funny shot right there. Long-tailed duck will be here for the winter. Really elegant looking duck. Here's a great photo of one of them. Common goldeneye, another waterfowl species. You can see that bright yellow eye that they have there that gives them their name. Here's another photo there of a couple common goldeneye. Buffleheads, another waterfowl species. And if you're out by the water, keep an eye out for birds like this, the belted kingfisher, any kind of open bodies of water. You might hear the little chattering of the belted kingfisher or happen to see it dive in the water as it gets little fish. One of my favorites, here's a hooded merganser. We just saw the red-breasted merganser. There's a smaller, what's called a hooded merganser. The male is the one with the black and white head here, and then the females are gray with kind of that chestnut-colored plumage. So they will be around here all winter as well. Some more robin photos here. This time they're eating different berries from the bittersweet plant, and this was over by the Erie Canal. Another photo sent in by Mark. And we've been getting several accounts of screech owls calling, which is really fun. If you are trying to attract screech owls a little bit more to your house, to your yard or area, we do have screech owl boxes that can be put out. And here's a couple photos sent in of screech owls. This one was sent in by Mario, who had a screech owl there in his pine tree. And then here's another one sent in by Jeff, another screech owl there. So really cool. They're here all winter. They're quite small, so you might not see them. People tend to hear them first and then try to go out and look for them. But here's a couple screech owls that are in the area. Most of the time they're gray. They have different colors that they can be. There's gray morphs. There's a red morph that's more like a reddish chestnut color. But here on the East Coast, the gray morph is the more common, and that's what this one looks like it is right here. So, and then finally, Cooper's hawks, sharp-shinned hawks. It's that time of the year where people are starting to see lots of birds of prey in their backyard. And usually it's Cooper's hawks. If you go out to fill your feeders and you happen to see a pile of feathers this time of the year, it's probably a hawk, although it could be something like a cat. You know, if you've got neighborhood cats that are roaming around, that's always an issue any time of the year. But right now, Cooper's hawks are very, very common in backyards. It's probably going to be the most common thing you'll see as far as a bird of prey in your backyard. There are sharp-shinned hawks, but they're quite small. So if you see something that's a bird of prey, but it's strikingly small, that's going to be your sharp-shinned hawk. Otherwise, if it's kind of a larger, more robust hawk, it's probably a Cooper's hawk. And they do go after songbirds. So unfortunately, if you have feeders up, it is a great source of food for them. And the only thing you can really do to keep them away, if you don't want them around, is to take your feeders down for a few days. The hawks tend to kind of disperse and go elsewhere, and then you can put your feeders up again. But super common this time of the year. If you're having this in your backyard, you're not the only one. A lot of people are having the same thing. So that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are open until 8 o'clock here at the Birdhouse, Monday through Thursday this week. So we are open evening hours if you are looking to finish up some of your shopping. And in the evening hours, it's pretty slow and tame, and the traffic isn't so bad. So that's a good tip. And we do free gift wrapping, so it gets even better. Looks like Ed is on. He says, "Good morning, all. We're seeing the usual winter suspects at the feeders: goldfinches, nuthatches, chickadees, downy, hairy, and red-bellied woodpeckers, and more, but just had our first bluebird." Okay, so I believe last year Ed had bluebirds all winter long coming to his heated bird bath. So it'll be interesting to see if they stay all this winter, especially as we're starting to get cooler weather, which we're going to see over the next few days. So really, really cool stuff. That is it for the day. We'll be back on Saturday, which is Christmas Eve, for one more broadcast. And until you guys have a great week, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.